YouTube? It's great to have you back for another episode of our Let's Play Twisted Dunes on the Oasis map. I'm your builder, New Build Cities, NBC for short. In this episode, we're going to build a beautiful European suburban style neighborhood along this mountainside here. As you can see, I've already got started, and I'd like to kind of work over in this area where I've labeled train station and put ourselves a nice town center that has a European focus on it, as well as a train station in this area here with the train line that runs along this area. I'd like to have the light density in the back and increase the density as we move forward. So let's go ahead and get started. So right now I'm boxing out an area just as a reminder where the train station is going to go and not to build in that particular spot. Let's go ahead and terrain some of this area. What I'm kind of envisioning here is a double key, one on the bottom level, one on like the top level, and the train kind of running in between the two, and have the key act as a retaining wall. And often when I'm terraining, I like to just leave a couple bumps in the road, you can say, some mounds here and there, just to provide a little bit of elevation change, just to bring a little bit uniqueness and character to the city. It might force you to run roads a certain way. Once again, if you're having trouble breaking the grid, that's a good way to do it, is to make it difficult to make grids in the first place by terraining or following features of the land. It ultimately leads to probably a more organic and beautiful city. And of course, if you find grids beautiful, well, do grids in your city. Alright, so let's go back to the town center area. And what I need to do is kind of get some dimensions on where exactly is the middle. As you can see on the right here, I've already placed a few potential buildings that I want to put in this area. It looks like the City Hall, and I want to say it's the Statue of Wealth from the unique buildings, as well as we're going to use the health clinic, police station, fire station. That's got, I don't know, it's got the less modern look to it, a little bit more rustic look. I think they go really well with that high density European look. Now that we found about the middle of kind of where our town center is going to be in this area, let's go ahead and size it up for our statue. That'll be the focal point of this area. So if you're having trouble creating like town centers or areas of interest, create a focal point in the neighborhood, in the downtown area, whatever it may be, and then build around that. And that's what we're doing here. We're using the Statue of Wealth as like our focal point, and then we're going to kind of build off of that. And what I'm going to do here is the 4-lane road trick, and I've done it. And I think the last episode when we did the high school, and but you guys didn't see it, so you're going to see a lot of it right here. And it's basically just as you just saw here, plopping down an asset on a 4-lane road, and then shrinking it back down to 2. And a lot of times it'll extend, kind of like, we'll call that gray concrete-y thing of the asset, and make it look a little longer, as well as allows you to put like trees and fencing and little props like fountains and benches and flower beds, and it's all kinds of whatever you're, have available to you in your imagination. So we went ahead and put the big three. I call it the big three: police, fire, and health. And I'm not 100% sure exactly the dimensions of what we're going to build to, but you know what? That's okay too. So sometimes I have a really good general plan of what I want to do, but not like so specific that I know the exact dimensions of all the roads and the squares that I want to build. And that's okay too, because what it does for me is it forces me to think like what assets, what zone buildings will kind of fit in a unique and interesting way in that space, and helps me break away from, say, certain patterns that I tend to fall back to because I just know those buildings very well. So now, for whatever reason, I didn't use the district painting that I painted that said town and town center. Decided to put a second district in here, and we're going to make that European high density. And those are like they're really beautiful, kind of like almost like row homes, and they're like smashed together, and they look really great. I think here I decide, what am I doing? Here I realize, what am I doing adding this district when I already have one? So that's looking good. That's set up well. So let's go ahead and work in the area for our residential neighborhood. It's still a little bit fine tuning on the terraining. Not a whole lot, just to give us a little bit of area. So on these mounds, we're gonna have what Overcharged Egg probably refers to as modular builds. We're gonna zone in a specific way to get a specific building, use the historical feature to lock it down at level 1, or whatever desired level it is. In this case, lock it down to level 1, with the goal of trying to create, we'll say, a somewhat cohesive apartment building, kind of apartment complex style area. So here I'm trying to find the middle to figure out where to put the path, as well as get the right dimensions for the building. What we're going to do in here, I think, is use 3x3 corner piece. It's a beautiful building. It's kind of like a dark brown. And we're going to use, I think, as well, the 3x3 kind of like side building. And that's also a little bit different brown. It's like a light brown with almost golden hues to it. So it's really gorgeous. And they pair up pretty well together. When you're doing things like this, be mindful of the guides, because the guides can start snapping to things. Well, like I said, just be mindful that the guides will snap to things and sometimes shorten the lengths, and it causes the blocks to become like broken. Sometimes turning the one that attaches to like the nodes. That way you'll maintain your perfect grid drawing. In this area right here, we're going to build a really nice spot with 2x2 corner pieces and a plaza piece in the center. And a couple light density buildings around. It's going to look really nice. They're kind of like a tan with a slightly darker roof. And of course it'll go really well with the sand and everything. We got a lot of tans in the map. And like I was saying before, now that we kind of have these mounds and stuff, we're just going to like draw a road around the mounds and try and connect the roads to our existing road structures. And we're going to use just dirt roads. I always just draw most things with either dirt roads or concrete roads, just because it's cheaper, and that way if we don't like it, we just blow them up. It's no big deal. And in this case, we'll probably keep some of them as dirt roads when we're done. And if you're a fan of Captain Obvious, you'll know that he advocates to let your city blend into the edge of the tiles. You don't want to zoom out and go into like the camera mode of your city and then it looks like a big square. I mean, you can, of course, do what you want. It's your city. But often your city looks more natural in the landscape if it just kind of fades away as you get towards the edges. You know, maybe you have a clump of trees. I said the roads themselves become less grid-like and more based on the terrain and the features in the area. So then it just, like I said, looks nice and natural. And when you get that nice zoomed out picture of your city and kind of look back at it, you just go, ah, okay, this kind of melts away. As you can see, I'm using a lot of the curve tool and freeform tool. I know when I first started playing this game, the freeform tool, I don't know, just felt so weird and strange and foreign to me. But I urge you to practice with it. I don't know what happens after you just use it for a little while. Like your brain just kind of like jives with it, and something like just clicks, and then you'll really start appreciating fluidity and ease of use that you have with the freeform tool. I know I use it probably at least half the time in my building. And now that we've laid most of the main roads, what I'm trying to do is create connecting side streets, increase our connectivity in the area. I mean, it helps people move around. It helps level up buildings because it extends our services. Because of course, the more connections you have, the farther like the green, like that land value benefit extends. So you get a little bit more out of your services when you have more connections, which is nice. Of course, you don't have to, and then you don't have to level up the buildings. Now let's just do a little bit of touch up with the terraining, especially in the back. You can see how we really pulled up some land and pushed it down. I think I want to follow Captain Obvious's advice here and go ahead and just bring that road down just a touch. It just allows me to do more terraining to help smoothen that out. If I'm up too close to the tile edge, what's going to happen is we're going to create like a cliff. That's definitely going to make the edge of the city stand out and get the wag of the finger from the captain. I think Shokoboa would also agree and advocate for trying to blend in your city. So let's just take a look at our handiwork and see how Butler Hills is coming along. I mean, it's looking good, really good. I'm happy with the road layout. So the next step is put down the services and the magic of editing. It's done, easy peasy. We ran all the water pipes and all that stuff. We got some schools. We have cemeteries and the police, fire, and all that stuff in here as well. And now let's go ahead and get zoning. Let's get the district right. I went ahead and did the districting already. We don't have high density at this point, so we can't build exactly what I have in mind. But don't be scared. We get it before the episode ends, and of course we're going to make some changes at that point. So right now, we're just zoning in with light density to push the numbers up to get to Big Town, which I think is the 6th milestone, and it's the one where you get high density, residential, commercial, and office zoning. I think what we'll do around the police, fire, and health clinic is just do some little commercial, some light commercial for people to kind of go hang out. Maybe a couple little restaurants or something pop up. I'm going to do a little bit of the organic and local produce zoning, just to give folks those little flea markets and nice places to go shop for goods and stuff locally. I don't want anything to be too tall in this area, so I'm using the historical feature, which you probably aren't seeing, to kind of limit the commercial down. Let's go ahead and turn our services on and make everybody happy. Yay! I can go to school now. And I'm looking at the unemployment, and I see that we're like 3%. That's not good. Ideally, you want your unemployment to be somewhere north of 4%. I often keep my unemployment between 6 and 10. And what does that do? It forces highly educated workers to take lower educated positions, so your jobs will fill up when your unemployment's a little on the, I will say, like slightly high side or moderate side. I think the highest I've had my unemployment in this city was 22%, and the city range is fine. So don't be too scared about having a higher unemployment. It just forces people to go to work. It just means you'll have all your jobs will be filled because everybody wants to work, and you won't have any issues with not enough employees because you got plenty. But like I said before, I recommend probably no lower than 4, and anywhere between 6 and 10 is probably fine. That's fine. I've never had any issues with that. And of course, that can be found under the population if no deal. Hooray! Big town! Now this is arguably maybe the second best milestone in the game to hit. First being Tiny Town, where you unlock Industries DLC, Park Life DLC, and Sunset Harbor DLC. And in this one we unlock campus area, so we could put down a trade school. We don't unlock the liberal arts school or university for a little while farther, unless of course you take the milestones off, then everything's available to you. You get a little like Metro and stuff, but I would argue at 8,000 citizens, Metro is probably too big of a transit to install. But it's not necessarily bad to start planning out Metro lines and where the Metro is going to go, because you probably, I think we have at this point 3 or 4 area tiles available to us. So of course you could start planning out like your Metro routes and stuff like that, which would be totally awesome. And of course we get the high density residential, commercial, and office zoning, which is awesome as well. We get Industry 4.0 policy, which is good policy to have, because in this city, and in every city I've built, I've used education boost and paired up with Industry 4.0 to have highly educated citizens going to work. And then not, to avoid some of those not enough workers, not enough educated worker issues that you might see. That married with, like I said, that 4 to like say 10% unemployment will prevent you from having those icons. Another nice transit piece we got is the intercity bus. I think that's from Sunset Harbor. Often I put that down at this point because it'll be the kind of like the first outside connection that we have to bring in extra folks from outside, the tourists, to come to our commercial areas, come to our leisure spots and spend some money. So now we're going to transform our city, really. We're going to rezone some areas with other districting and make it high density European. And then we're going to, like I said, zone high density European in those areas that we kind of set up already. We used to be fire. This is tough because it closes in on you. Because Skylines tries to help. It reminds me of my son sometimes when he's trying to really be helpful, but he's not. You just kind of go, Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. And they get, of course, they get all excited and happy, like, oh man, you know. But you're really like, that didn't help me at all, bro. Now I gotta undo that. But that's like skylines here with the district painting. And I've always complained, and you probably say every episode that you watched, would love to have that circle be one size smaller and one size bigger. So 5 steps instead of 3 to allow you to fine tune a little bit more. And honestly, I don't use the snapping on the roads hardly ever at all. I hate when it snaps to the corners. It just really irks me to death because it makes fine tuning stuff like this really difficult. And I guess the intention was never to be as crazy as me, maybe, and being as specific to what you're zoning to. But I am, and therefore I am tortured for it. There we go. I think we're all done with changing the district zoning in the residential area. We'd already set it up in the town center area. Of course, you're going to see it quick over here, but I take my kind of time to dezone and rezone just because our city is like, what, 7,000 or so folks? 8,000, whatever the milestone was. And I just don't want to shock the city too bad by like just losing like a couple thousand people by dezoning a bunch of stuff. So, you know, of course it's sped up in the video. I took my time zoning the light density residential to avoid the death waves, which we kind of talked about, I think, in the first episode. You don't want to zone too quickly, because as you know, they move into the same time, the same age. They all die at the same time. So that's the death wave. I have a video on the channel that kind of talks about that if you want to go more into depth. And as well as you don't want to necessarily dezone a bunch of people, because it could make your city unstable, at least through that patch of time. And there's no real need to do that unless you just really want to get it done. Alright, so what I'm doing here is I'm just locking stuff down as they come in. Like I said, in the area with the plaza in the center, we're doing like just 2x2 corner pieces smashed together. It's going to create like a little small building. I had already zoned some light density commercial in our town center area a little while back, and as well as I was filming this, just to satisfy some commercial demands. And what we're going to do once again is going to dezone some of this. The fact that we're getting a little bit of the not enough educated workers is going to slow us down just a little bit, because we're going to have to build up our population and go ahead and get them educated before we put too much high density in. And through the magic of editing, we're done. Yeah, I didn't want to bore you too much with me blowing up buildings and making them historical for the next 20 minutes. So I thought we would take a look at the end results and discuss maybe the dimension size of the buildings. That way, if you're interested, you can build something like this in your city. Of course, the first one we have here is a level 1 high-density European 2x4, all lined up and they look gorgeous. Then these two popping up here, they're 2x3, and depending on how you may orient that 2x3 in a 5x5 block, gives you either the brown one or the red one, which we're going to see the red one is far off in the distance from here. Our nice 3x3 corner piece and 3x3 side piece came together really nicely. And we have, of course, trampoline park, couple plazas, and a climbing frame in the middle. I always like opening up those buildings because they look beautiful that way. And so there's another 2x3 red building. This area here, we did a 2x3 long building paired up with a 2x3 kind of short building to create little courtyards in the middle. And all that's focused around the fountain from our campus. In this area here, we used the 4x4 tan building as well as the 2x2 corner building with the zoo plaza, a couple gazebos, and the climbing frame. And we use, I think that's American style road color. Next door we have 3x3 taller buildings. They got like that, almost like a blue purple with like an orange color in them. And here we have a nice little area with our organic zoning. Some stuff from the amusement park tucked away in the corner. Once again, here is our 2x2 corner pieces around this plaza up on the hill. And I think that's the 2-lane European path. Added some pathing and some rocks and stuff to get folks down across the street into our commercial area. And here we have a lot of road with trees and biking. In the residential area, we have some buses, and of course, I've gotten the expansion with the content creator pack, so we've got some articulated buses. In this area here, we actually have the double deck bus. If you keep your eye out, you'll probably see a couple. And in this area, we have some office. We got the 3x3, the corner piece with the 2x4 with the gazebos and kind of like in the almost in the middle-ish, in the, like that broken part next to a 3x4 with a 2x4 sandwiched in the middle to create like the courtyards once again. Then that's next to a 4x4 and a 2x4 with a 2x4 in the middle, creating almost like this hammer look where you can kind of see inside the buildings and have parking there. And just behind that we have another like 3x3 corner piece with the 3x3 side piece and a 2x4 long piece in the middle. And it has a nice, it kind of creates this little like gap that you can imagine people walk through. It's kind of neat. And some more like corner pieces smashed together. And then the building kind of in the middle of the frame, we have two 2x4s, like short pieces, and two 2x4 long pieces. It creates a nice courtyard. We have the 4x4 kind of like tan pieces that creates a nice little spot. Once again, it doesn't quite come together, and that's okay. It leaves a little gap maybe people can walk to after they get out of their car to go to the buildings. And then next to that is another 3x4 with the 2x4 in between, creating a courtyard. And I really like this one. These 4x4 office buildings. See, this look awesome. Like stood out, and you can see through them to like the other buildings. Create like this nice kind of like parking space behind them with the hedges and everything. And we got one of the paths in between. And in front of that we have a few smaller buildings. And to the right here we have a 2x4, a 3x4, and a 2x4 long together with pathing between them. And then of course our last building here, right by our firehouse and parking lot, is a 2x4 and a 4x4 office building. And here's a shot right down the middle of our town center. Well, it was a pleasure to have you along for this video. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed building it. If you did, please leave a like to help support and grow this channel, as well as I'd love to welcome you into the NBC family by having you become a subscriber. If you'd like to interact with me live, stop by my Twitch page. The link is below. Shoot me a follow. That way you'll be notified the next time I stream. I wish you the best and brightest success in your cities. And as always, happy building.